What is going on, everyone? Welcome in to another episode of Wildly Informed. Brett Marshall and Isha Jerome back with you to talk about the Minnesota Wild, who now trail after a heartbreaking loss last night, 3-2 in their series, with an elimination game coming up. I believe is it tomorrow night? Already we're back at it, or is it Friday?
Thursday.
Yeah, it's tomorrow night, right back at it. It'll be interesting, but it was tough, these last two games to come in, play really well, get the games to overtime, and it's not be able to close it out. Unfortunately, there's no loser points in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough, especially given that the third period was the Wild's best period. Like they looked like themselves in that period, and they actually were making it hard for Vegas to do anything, set up in the zone, and held Vegas only to a few shots in that entire period. And that was a tough one.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I saw a tweet today. Yeah. There was a 13-minute and 43-second stretch where the Wild did not allow a shot. And I think that was shortly after Gus had to come out with his illness and Fleury came in.
Yeah, Fleury went full beast mode after Gustafsson had the shits.
Yeah, so it sounds like thankfully Gustafsson is expected to be ready for tomorrow. So hopefully whatever it was, stomach bug.
I mean, he looked dialed in the first two periods. Yeah. It threw me off. I mean,
something just hit. So you never know. But
it
sounds
like the Roberto Luongo special.
Yeah. So they expect to be back. So that's good. But how are you doing tonight? I mean, obviously, sucks to see the Wild lose a little bit, but aside from that, how are things?
I mean, the Leafs lost. The Sens beat them on the same night, so I slept with a smile on my face, unlike most of Minnesota Wild fans.
Was it 3-1 or 3-0 series?
I think it's 3-1. No, the series is now 3-1, but it was.
I thought it was 3-2. I thought that was Ottawa's second one. I thought it was 3-0. Now it's 3-2. But maybe I'm dumb.
And then Toronto Maple Leafs fans burning Marner jerseys on Twitter now. So it's all just good times for me as a not even a Senators fan, just a Leafs hater.
Yeah, it's 3-2.
Oh, 3-2. Okay.
Yeah. So it's 6-2 Toronto, 3-2 Toronto, 3-2 Toronto, 4-3 Ottawa, 4-0 Ottawa.
Yeah. So I mean, I would love nothing more for the Ottawa Senators to come back, because I mean the Leafs are going to choke eventually in the playoffs. I mean, it's that is the Toronto Maple Leafs away. So it would be cool to see the Senators come back and take them out. Washington playing well against the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, man, we talked about this last week too. Like the Washington Capitals, they are a playoff built team. If you just look at the size and skill that they have on that roster, and it's really magnified now in the postseason. Just how good, how big, how mean, and how skilled they are. And a little bit of a scare there with their goaltender, but came back in and looked pretty good. So that was a fun series. And man, if the Capitals go all the way, what a year, what a story, what just extra to add to Ovi's legacy.
Yeah, and to your point, you mentioned the past tense. It was a great series. To your point, if you're tuning in just now, haven't seen, Capitals just wrapped up their series with an empty netter. Brandon Duhaime sealed the deal with an empty netter. Capitals won.
What a year, by the way. Over 20 points, instant fan favorite, fights almost every night. The coaches trust him. The team loves him. I mean,
I came out before last season and said, because he had played the previous year, played most of the year on the fourth line, and I said, hey, the numbers here are pretty good. I really like what Duhaime brings. This is a guy that could play up in your lineup a little bit, be a third line guy, and someone I'd hope they'd hold on to. And
I was sad to see him go,
but excited, not excited, but happy to see him thriving in the next location. Definitely a guy you always want to root for, and cool to see him be a part of Washington's success this year, albeit being a role player.
Well, and that's his thing. Right.
Yeah.
So he's landed on a team that oh yeah, we want you, we like you, and it's working. So just keep doing your thing. And he's just okay.
Well, imagine having to be out there against, Tom Wilson and Brandon Duhaime every game. No, thank you. That sounds awful.
Saying, well, Wilson is a big, Wilson plays the big game, but Dubois is a big body. Freaking Pratos is a big body. There's and just what I love about the Capitals too.
Do they have Hathaway too?
I think they do have Hathaway as well. They have
maybe they don't.
Well, anyways, they have a big team. If you go up and down the roster, you look at the size of these guys, and they're huge. And a lot of, their defensemen, a lot of their forwards are all homegrown talent with a team that's been, making the playoffs for so long, right? So it just shows that if you have good development staff and good scouts, you can always continue to feed your farm system. And the Capitals, throughout, our whole lifetime watching them, basically the whole OV era, they've continued to develop players despite not having, high draft picks, which is cool to see.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at their playoff stats. Every player except for John Carlson and Alexander Alexiev, who are defensemen, had a point in the series. Carlson was a +4, so clearly a big part of it. But multiple players with multiple points, multiple goals.
Dude, and John Carlson playing well and not having a point, okay, this team's going all the way.
yeah, it's
Carlson ain't the most defensive. He ain't as leaky as Erik Karlsson, but he ain't the most defensive defenseman, right?
Yeah. Well, we know their next round opponent will be the Carolina Hurricanes. They did
should be a 6 series.
Take down the Devils. Is I think we kind of, when we previewed that, we're I think I had Hurricanes and 4 Devils. I think squeaked one game out in overtime.
Well, but then went to overtime last night in the 4-4 game. So they did as good as they could have without without Jack Hughes and just being the team that we all knew is not going to be even close to.
And I believe they lost. It was in double overtime. I think it was on a 4-minute high sticking minor. That's just the way it goes.
A friend of mine's a New Jersey guy, and he was in I did the watch party last night, and he was in the chat.
Yeah. So
hard fought effort, but we all knew Carolina was going to win that one. This next one, honestly, it's kind of like the Montreal and Capitals series again, except Carolina is just they're just a better team than Montreal, but same sort of style, high scoring, high pace, quick team. The Capitals were able to beat that style. Let's see if they can beat it with a team that's a little bit more elite.
Yeah, Carolina kind of feels like those old San Jose Sharks and Washington Capitals teams back in the day that the regular seasons are good every year and they've made it to the second round a lot, and it just feels like they haven't been able to put everything together yet.
Carolina hasn't yet. That's the thing. They've
right. That's what
they've had a young developing team for a while now, and now they're young. Their core pieces are young. They have veterans. Everyone's still producing. It seems to be clicking. They're not doing those weird freaking crazy celebrations anymore to sell tickets. People are actually there to watch the team, and I mean, and Rod Brind'Amour has done everything that he can, despite leading them to a Stanley Cup. So it's gonna, and he's re-signed now, so he's gonna be there for a while. I think their year is coming. If they get past the Capitals, they could be one of those teams where you're okay, they're not just that one who hover around the second round every year and then get booted. But like I said, to open up this segment, the Capitals made relatively easy work against a similar style of hockey. Mind you, the Hurricanes are a better team than the Habs.
Yeah, and much like the Capitals, the Hurricanes had 16 of their 19 skaters that played in the playoffs register a point. Their stars at the top of their game right now. Aho at 8 points in 5 games. Svechnikov 6. Jarvis is a point per game right now. And then obviously Freddie Anderson's playing pretty well. Kochetkov has come in, played 2 games. He's been fine in relief. So, I think it should be a really good series. I think one that will, both these teams coming off, 4-1 games. I would not expect either team to bow out on this one. I think this one will go 6 or 7 for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked. I'm stoked for this series. I mean, the Capitals are the other team I'm following as much as the Wild right now.
Yeah, and I'm kind of upset. I really like Carolina. So a little bit of a battle of our secondary favorites here.
Oh, yeah, I might have to whip out the Capitals jersey for an upcoming episode or stream.
Yeah, I want to get a Stankoven Canes jersey. That's kind of on my where can I get the cheap ones or whatever. But
there's so many Caps jerseys I want. I want Semin, I want Green, I want Ovi, I want Backstrom, I want freaking Dwayne. I gotta get some of the old school guys first. But
yeah, and then the other series that could wrap up this evening, Florida and Tampa Bay. Florida scored again. They're up 5-3 with about 5 minutes left. So Tampa Bay was my cup winner in my bracket, so not looking too good for me right now.
It's been back and forth. There've been some games where it's just been all Tampa, and then now Florida crawling back.
Yeah,
back.
And I will say part of my decision was, to me, it was the winner of that series was going to win was going to be my finalist from the East, and I didn't know if Matthew Tkachuk was going to be back, and had I
Mhm.
known that when I did my bracket, which I didn't, I may have changed my pick. But I think my Western Conference pick is Colorado, who's now down, I believe, 3-2 to Dallas. So
Did not see that one going that way with. I mean, Dallas, talk about resilient, man, because they're still banged up and still getting it done.
Yeah. So Colorado, as we mentioned, like they threw the farm at Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle and all these guys, and man, to get bounced in the first round would be oof for them. But other news around the NHL, some coaching, more coaching changes. Notable one here, a couple notable ones. We'll start with this one since it's relevant to a little bit of, speaking of secondary favorite teams or primary, the Canucks and Rick Tocchet part ways. So not super surprising, kind of given the regression that they had this year and the rifts between some of the players and unable to kind of right those and forcing trades and stuff like that. But just kind of your thoughts on Tocchet and him getting the boot.
The revolving door of Vancouver coaches continues, dude. It's insane that like they couldn't have at least sat down and tried to find a solution, because it like he's been there for a year and a half ish,
right?
Really,
and did very well last year.
Two seasons. And yeah, last year when everyone was healthy and they were clicking, it was good. And this year started off unhealthy, obviously had some locker room stuff that just didn't help at all. Yeah, like this year was so many injuries right off the bat, and the JT Miller and Pettersson friggin' saga that just sunk this team. I mean, a lot of guys had good individual performances, but it was very disappointing, especially like with the addition of Jake DeBrusk coming in. The success from last year, Vancouver fans were hoping that they would, if not even take a step forward, have another year like last year, where if Demko was healthy in the playoffs, they probably would have got by Edmonton, and Edmonton being a Stanley Cup finalist, it just would have shaken up 100%. The playoffs a little bit more last year. So it's very disappointing as a Canucks fan. I know Tocchet and Hughes were very close. He's probably not happy about this. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the Canucks do moving forward. But yet again, I mean, man, it's been a revolving door for since Alain Vigneault's left. It's just been like a couple years.
Because who's it been? They had Travis Green, Rick Tocchet,
before Travis Green, they no, wait. You're after Alain Vigneault, it was John Tortorella. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
For 1 year, and then it was Willie Desjardins, and actually John Tortorella and Mike Sullivan, because John Tortorella got suspended 15 games for trying to fight Bob Hartley, and Mike Sullivan was actually the coach at the time. So I mean, Mike Sullivan, free agent as well, that was coached in Vancouver alongside Torts that year. But no, then it was Willie Desjardins, and then it was Travis Green, then Bruce Boudreau and Rick Tocchet, and now we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll have a little bit more on like coaching related stuff at the end of the show. But
if they lose Quinn Hughes, I'm flying back home and we're riding again. I mean, it's just that's.
Florida just got an empty netter, so it looks like they're going to win. They're up 6-3 with 4.5 minutes left. So that one's wrapped up. Did not expect that one to go only to 5, but fans are leaving the stands. So
you couldn't pay me to watch baseball, Swerve.
Yeah. Like I said, I come in chat. I'd be happy to jump on the Wolves bandwagon. I think they're playing right now, I think, to close out their series against the Lakers. Yeah. So
if you can't fight in the sport, it's not a sport to me. It's just a game.
That's valid. Other big coaching firing from these past couple of days. Pittsburgh and Mike Sullivan agreed to part ways. Sullivan 10 seasons.
A lot of success
with the Penguins. Was it 1 or 2 cups that he got with them?
2 cups.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was 2 cups. Second longest tenured before being fired. He was the second longest tenured coach in the league. Now that was behind John Cooper, who is his seat hot after getting bounced here. I don't know. I wouldn't if I were them, but
it just might be time for a change if he wants to keep coaching too, because he's only been in Tampa, right?
That's true. Yeah. And it sounds like Sullivan for sure will have lots of opportunities. Sounds like several teams that have coaching vacancies already reportedly reached out, kick the tires on him, see what his interest level is. So at the end of the show, one of our Puck Your Opinions, we have some coaching talk that we'll go through. So we'll save anything on that. But anything specifically on Sullivan. I think to your point too, people were. I think they even had to come up with a statement that like management talked this over with Crosby, and like Crosby like understood, but like same reason like Hughes talking relationship. Crosby Sullivan, obviously 10 years he's been your coach, and there's probably a lot of respect there too.
Yeah, well, Hughes didn't answer his phone before the news dropped apparently. So that was a lot of memes coming out on what the texts and or voicemails were from Canucks management. And some of them are pretty funny.
Yeah. So, miscellaneous news around the league. We talked a little bit about the Canes and Alexander Nikishin having some contract hiccups, I believe, on last week's show. They came to terms on a contract with him that will allow him to play in the playoffs. I didn't see a lot of specifics. Haven't heard reports of him coming over yet, but something to monitor there. And the Hurricanes also extended Taylor Hall, who came over as part of the Rantanen deal to a 3x3.167 million contract. He's fit in, I think, pretty well with that team, not having to kind of be the top line guy, but a solid middle six guy for them. David Carl has withdrawn his name from the Blackhawks coaching search, which I think that's a smart move on his part. I would not want to coach that team. That's going to be a disaster for the foreseeable future. And then some trophy finalists were named as well throughout the past week. Hellebuck, Kemper, Vasilevsky named the Vezina finalists. I think it's pretty much going to be a unanimous vote for Hellebuck. Doesn't even matter. Like I didn't even realize Kemper had a Vezina worthy season until I saw the names go. Like that's how just keyed in I was on. It's Hellebuck's to lose. But again, he's been dreadful in the playoffs. It's truly baffling.
It's just like because I was on the side of like, okay, well, it's going to have to change eventually. Like not everything stays the same, right? The pendulum's going to swing, and nope, yet again. And the Blues have just been like the better team overall, which is wild. And how about Jimmy Snuggerud? My God, what a series he's been having.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up his playoff stats here to see why doesn't it have him. Oh yeah, currently right now, 817 save percentage and a 4.24 goals against average, and then his goals saved above expected is the -7, which is the worst in the playoffs by 2.3 goals behind Stuart Skinner, and then Aiden Hill actually is third worst. So Philip Gustafsson, by the way, fifth in that stat at 2.9.
Yeah, Hellebuck may win it, but it'll be bittersweet upon crashing out of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's baffling how that the downfall. Like I don't know if it's overplayed, but like you wouldn't think that like how can he be fine until game 82 and then game 83 is like I forgot how to play goalie. Like
I think after this year or after this playoff run, it won't be overplayed anymore. It'll be like okay, you can't really defend it anymore.
Yeah, we need to find a 1B. But
yeah, just for maybe even the first round. Maybe it's just first round jitters. Who knows?
Yeah,
because we don't know. We haven't seen the second round. So
yeah. Norris Trophy finalists also named your guy Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, and then Zach Werenski. I feel like those were the right three picks for that trophy. This is one I honestly don't know.
This one's easier than Hellebuck. It's Hughes all the way. See,
and Eileen, like this award oftentimes goes off straight offense. Cale Makar scored 30 goals this year. But I think just what Zach Werenski did in Columbus was unbelievable on both ends of the ice. I think there was a little bit more to his game there, but I think this is a really tough three. Like I don't envy the voters, and I don't think this is a clear runaway because I think each of these have a really good case to win the award for sure.
Yeah, because Hughes played only 68 games, literally carried this team on his back, had his best, like one of his best defensive years as well. Like given everything that went on, he played through a lot of injuries as well and still was able to not only almost have his same goal total as last year where he was fully healthy, but still put up 60 assists.
Yeah, and I mean you look at Vancouver, like just barely missing the playoffs, like you mentioned, he misses what is that 14 total games. Like imagine if that's that number is even half of that, where potentially Vancouver is right now. They might be playing and the Wild could be at home for all we know.
Yeah. So that one will be tough. At the end of the day, I don't even care too much about the awards. All three of them, there's a case for them. Obviously, I'm a little biased and I think Quinn Hughes is the best defenseman in the league, so obviously deserves to win.
For sure. Nikita Kucherov, Nathan McKinnon, and then once again, Cale Makar named the Ted Lindsay finalist that's the most outstanding player as voted on by fellow players. So basically an MVP that versus like media and stuff voting, it's the players instead.
Yeah, McKinnon, I mean, I imagine like as a fan, it blows my mind. I imagine as like a fellow hockey player too, just being like,
I can't imagine like being on the ice with him sometimes, be like watching him do those things. Like
even as a teammate, I mean, he freaking ripped Charlie Coyle a new one the other night.
Yeah, and like, unfortunately, this is probably another potential trophy that Kaprizov could have been up for had he not got hurt when he did.
Yeah.
But
we could see a future Ted Lindsay in a healthy Kaprizov season.
For sure. So, no other award finalists released as of yet, I don't think, but I think they just kind of slow release those throughout the playoffs. So.
Hey, no awards, but the PWHL was rewarded a team, or Seattle was rewarded a team.
Yeah, that is true. And the last bit of news is not really relevant here. There were some suspensions in the Florida-Tampa Bay series because the refs refused to call stuff, so players are taking retribution on their own and then getting slapped by the league. So Ekblad got a 2-game suspension, which I believe may now carry over into game 1 of their next series because I think he only missed tonight. And then Brendan Hagel was not available for the Lightning tonight. I believe he got a 1-game suspension in this game, or was hurt or something. I think he might have been hurt, but he didn't play tonight either. I think he's in that might have gotten hit by Ekblad, actually, now that I think about it.
Man, Ekblad this season, friggin', what was it, the 20-game suspension for, what was it, performance-enhancing?
Yeah.
Substance abuse, performance-enhancing substance, and then... And then now with this, he just has not had a good end to the 2025 season.
Yeah. So,
which you don't see that often. What was it, like Nate Schmidt was like one of the was it the other like recent case?
That sounds right. And it was back in like 2018 or something. I think. Yeah.
And then honestly, like before then, they just didn't really test because all the fighters were pretty much on something back in early 2000s and 90s. But it's interesting that it's not prevalent in hockey at all, given that like you'd think that like that edge would help a lot in almost every area of the game: speed, strength, recovery. So not that I'm like lobbying for it, I'm just saying it's interesting that it's not that we don't see it a lot, given that like the athletes might benefit from the perks more than most sports, right?
Yeah, for sure. News outside of the NHL, the PWHL announced today they are expanding to Seattle. Beginning play next season, they'll play at Climate Pledge, so that's the same rink that the Kraken and I believe
Vancouver got a team too.
Oh, I was looking. Did that happen a couple days ago?
Was that last week? Last week, Vancouver got a team.
Yeah. So Vancouver as well. I had thought that, and like I went back and like scrolled, and like I couldn't find anything. Like, I could have sworn I saw Vancouver too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and when the PWHL did their tour this year, Minnesota went there. I forget who they played.
Yeah, their crowd was insane.
The crowd sold out. Yeah, which was really cool. So there's a big. There's just a big support for hockey in general in Vancouver at every level.
And then just get it like bringing those at the same time, like obviously instant rivalry, which will be cool.
Yeah, which would be awesome for the league as well, right?
Yeah, and
you'll have. Maybe not a lot of traveling fans, but if the rivalry becomes intense and it's like guaranteed good games and they play each other in the playoffs or like division finals or whatever, then like hell yeah, that's when like people travel to the games, which is great.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, just like it gives their league exposure now on the West Coast. Cause I believe previous to this, Minnesota was the furthest west team.
Yeah, everything was
before that. So yeah, because it was Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, New York, and Boston, and Minnesota. Yeah, I believe right. So yeah, the Frost. So speaking
tough travel for the Western teams, but like what Western team in hockey doesn't have a tougher travel schedule?
Yeah. Sticking with the PWHL, our Minnesota Frost, they beat Ottawa tonight to keep their season alive.
Hell yeah.
So I didn't like read anything on the exact clinching scenario, but I think based on what I can deduce, so it's right now, I believe they are still in 5th of 6th place. The top 5 teams make the playoffs. They are now, I believe, tied with Ottawa, who plays the worst team next week, and then Minnesota, I believe, plays Boston, who is ahead of them by 2 points. So I think to get in, Minnesota has to beat Boston, and Ottawa also has to lose to Toronto, I believe, and then they get in and save their season. So, and I believe both those games are like, I think they're this weekend and like last day of the season type of scenarios. So should be make those interesting. But good luck to the Frost. Hopefully they can pull it out and play some playoff hockey and defend their title that they won last year. And then finally, we told you we'd keep you updated the best we could on the Hockey Canada sexual assault case. News broke last week that they had a mistrial. Something happened with the jury. They couldn't really expand on it.
Day 4.
Yeah, and I had heard the rumor was that one of the jurors basically wasn't truthful and knew more about the case, and that was the rumor, but they can't confirm it at all. So they've picked a new jury now, so instead of 11, it's now 14, 9 women, 5 men. Trial is restarted, so some of the same evidence being talked about, some of the new evidence we hadn't seen before being talked about.
Today was the text messages.
Yeah, it was day
3-way.
Today was day 3, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if you guys want to follow it, Rick Westhead from TSN, he honestly provides the best coverage for it. He's there covering it hour by hour, it seems. And like I said, today the only real big news that came out was them just like revealing some of the text between the guys,
which are damning to say the least.
Yeah, planning the meet, and then I think one of the other players testified, who like wasn't involved, but basically testified and gave his account of what went on, hearing from the guys prior to that incident. So anyways, Rick Westhead, he'll keep you more informed than us, but every podcast that we do, and if there's news that especially that's come out today, we'll just keep you a little updated on it as well. The mistrial being the biggest news, like on day, 3 or 4, and like already had to. It didn't affect it too much because they weren't that far into it. Which if they were like knee deep in it, it would have been a way bigger headache. Yeah. So they kind of just picked up where they left off, and they were kind of still in like the first opening parts of the trial. So I guess better now than later. So
yeah. So we'll continue to monitor that. Like I said, the texts that they released today are make you a little sick to your stomach. So I'm not going to read them live here, but
Hockey Canada, off the ice just makes me sick to my stomach.
That's valid.
All right, let's get to the analytics agenda, which I don't have a video for today.
All right,
what do we got?
Today we are talking about Gus Nyquist. Obviously a hot topic today on Twitter because of his rather egregious offsides that he had on the Hartman goal, which would have been the game-winning goal. But also, like, I wanted just to dive in.
I mean, it was close. Egregious is a little bit of a stretch. It was they literally Toronto had to call it in. Everybody else missed it. So like, let's calm down.
It's more like as a player, like you are
like the opposite team didn't even challenge the offside. They challenged the goalie interference. So when people are like, "Oh, it's the most egregious thing," it's like, bro, the coach didn't even see it. Like,
but it's more like as a player, you should always be trying to drag your foot, like straddle the line and do whatever you can. And like, it didn't seem like Gus made that effort at all on that play.
Agreed that like you shouldn't be offside. End of story, right? Like at this level. But the fact, like, I'm poking you a little bit with the egregious because like, Wild Twitter wants his head, and they wanted his head after game 1 and 2, which I pushed back on a lot and just called them a bunch of sheeps because like I actually saw more good. We were defending him we said that we actually saw like more good than egregious bad, but I'm fair. I don't let bias seep in at all, like unless we're talking about Quinn Hughes. But we're talking about the Wild. The last 2 games were not good. Last night again, that was the anchor play, but overall I don't think he's been an anchor for this team. He's been another body there. And do I think replacing him with Ogren would have helped them in the series? Not necessarily. He has a lot more experience, and I think that there's more of a risk for some more grueling mistakes, putting the younger guy in a bigger responsible position like that, like what we saw with Zeev coming in as well. So I'm not like, I don't want his head. Am I disappointed in his last 2 games? Absolutely. Do I think he's like, am I defending him being offside? No, but like, again, when Toronto's the one who calls it, it was close. It was close.
Yeah, but it's just like at this, like, I think for where my frustration is like looking at this guy's offensive contributions, or I guess you could say like lack thereof. And this guy was brought in for a 2nd round pick, and has pretty much done next to nothing in the playoffs.
Yeah, was
5
it a
game.
waste of a pick?
So at this point, unless he, all of a sudden these last 2 games like vaults them into the second round, like I'm leaning yes. Like he has 1 shot on goal worth 0.11 expected goals, 0 points, and he's playing all these situations. And just like regular season, like he had his moments, but like 7 points in 27 games. He was a -5, only 33 shots on goal. XG share, Corsi share, high danger share, all sub 50%, like hasn't really controlled play as much as you would like. So it's just like, to your point, like I don't necessarily think he's been bad, but it's like he's just kind of a body out there. Like he looks like Marcus Johansson, like in those stretches earlier in the year, where it's like, yep, Johansson played in the game tonight and like didn't really do a lot of bad stuff, but where was he? It's like that.
No, and everyone has to be, firing on all cylinders here. I mean, where Trenyan hasn't been offering much, offensively, at least he's hitting everything that moves, right? And
right.
And contributing in other ways. So like I get that as well. I just like, and maybe just because like this isn't my team, that like the frustration hasn't boiled over. Like I said, I don't want his head. And I don't think the first 2 games he was really an issue, but yeah, these last 2 for sure have been bad, and everyone was pissed last night.
Like even I think last night was one of his better games. I think if I remember it from my player cards, he had like a 91% expected goal share last night. But it's obviously his last night's magnified by the offsides, and then just like, what are you doing offensively right now? Like we didn't pay a second round pick to add a bottom 6 defensive forward. We paid a second round pick to hopefully spark the offense. So, I think it could be a learning lesson for Guerin a little bit with this trade. It's like, hey, this is a guy that we'd had, a couple years ago, and thought we could respark the chemistry. But I mean, he was getting opportunity in Nashville this year, and his numbers were way, way down. But yeah, so I think, it'll be interesting to see. It sounds like he's not going to be taken out of the lineup next game based on a Hines quote today. But like, I think he really needs to step up, do something, because I think there could be a case, to bring in a guy like a Liam Ogren. Like, at least know Ogren is not going to pass up on shots, and he'll have more than, 1 shot in 3 attempts. He might do that in a game, is what we could see from Ogren. But we need a big bounce back game for him, for sure.
Yeah. What about John Merrill? What's his status, you think?
Yeah, I mean,
because again, not a bad game overall, but his blunder cost them.
Right. Yeah. So he's an interesting one. Like, again, I thought the third pair last night wasn't great, but it hasn't been great with Bouillon.
I mean, you've been giving Bogosian
like
every single game, right?
Yeah. Like at some point,
like,
you
guys have been listening to the podcast and follow Brett on Twitter, you'll know his thoughts about Bogosian.
Yeah, and then, and there's a pretty clear common denominator with these struggling third pairs, and it's Zach Bogosian. I thought the power play looked okay last night, so like you're not necessarily clamoring to get Bouillon back in again the power play, but I just think like I think you have to play Declan Chisholm at some point, whether it's for Bogosian playing on the offside or, whether it is coming in for a John Merrill. Like, I think he played too well this season to not give that guy a chance. And when you're struggling to push play, offensively, he's a guy that can help you do that from the back end. I mean, a lot of people say like his numbers are inflated because he played with Spurgeon, but if anything, to me, that's a compliment to him. Like, hey, this guy's good enough where he played
with Spurgeon. Yeah.
He played consistent top 4 minutes with a good defenseman and put up good numbers. He didn't John Merrill or Zach Bogosian anchor the pairing. Like, he was good with them. Corey Snyder, who does a lot of analytics on Twitter. I love his stuff. He just tracks a lot of micro stats. And they had a post and they were looking at this. It was one defenseman who kind of have this like look almost like a really odd, like, oh, these numbers look really good for a guy who hasn't talked about a lot. And like, oh, this feels like Declan Chisholm. And he responded with Chisholm's like micro stat card. And like all the underlying stuff is good. And like,
I've loved him since he's been in Minnesota Wild, and this year in particular.
Yeah. And some of the areas he's like really thrived, like his defensive zone retrievals and breakouts. Like when you're like, imagine those shifts for the Wild, they're getting hemmed in and having a guy that can, hey, go chase the puck down the corner, make a quick out, and put the Wild back on the attack. We talked about early in this series when they kind of won, games 2 and 3, they were scoring a ton off the rush, forcing turnovers. And like we think we've seen Vegas be able to kind of reel in the turnovers, and the Wild are finding it a lot harder now to generate offense. So, I think you have to look at, what can he bring? Like at this point, I think Bogosian in the series has I think it's a 37% something expected goal share. He has the 7th highest goals against per 60 of all defensemen in the playoffs, at least 100 minutes. Like, it can't be worse than that.
Yeah.
Like even if Chisholm goes out and has a bad game, it's probably not any different than what Bogosian would do. Like, so
he'll do more with the puck than can just chuck it up the
right.
ice.
And like that's a frustrating thing is like it feels like that's what Bogosian does. Like he doesn't look for a pass. He's like, I'm just gonna flip it out, chip it out. It's like you just give the puck back to their team. It's like no, like
well, in fairness, it's like vague. It doesn't matter. Like even when Faber has been doing that, and maybe a little bit more, off the glass, just like a better clear. Vegas has done a great job of keeping the pucks in. Like there's been so many opportunities where it's like, yep, the guy at the back has won the battle behind the net. He got it up to the corner and he's going to send it that last pass up. And it's like Vegas is just there. They're quick to intercept those too. So like that's something they've just been doing good in general. And if you're like blindly throwing it up there, like it's just a giveaway at that point.
Yeah, and like a lot of people on Twitter when I brought this up today were just like, "Oh, like you can't bench Bogosian; they don't have another right shot D." And like, if that's the only reason you
at this point it
not
doesn't
to
matter,
play him, like it's just a bad argument. Like it's a lazy argument. Like no, like Chisholm has played on his offside this year, like he has. So like, it's not like they have no one that can do it. But it does make you wonder if a guy like a David Jiricek was healthy, if he would have drawn in by now potentially. But
I mean, probably because he's again more pro fresh than Zeev. They probably would have given. I mean, they probably would still gave Zeev a look, but maybe depended on Jiricek a little bit more. And I don't know.
And then looks. Then you can try. I mean, maybe Bogosian goes to the left side, or then you'd have an option with Chisholm or Merrill, whoever that is, or maybe be William Jiricek. Who knows? But So Wild need a really, really, really big game 6. It doesn't sound from what I could deduce that there'll be any lineup changes. To your point, they played a really good third period. The last 2 games have gone to overtime. So like, I think if there's a reason to be encouraged just by being down 3-2 is they've kept this series tight.
They've been able to score, right?
Yeah. Last 3 games, I think are all by 1 goal. It's like, it's been close. They found ways to score. The power play has gotten goals now in back-to-back games. I think the penalty kill was 4 for 4 last night. So like there are things going well to our point earlier in the show. Gustafson's playing well. So like, it's not like they're being outplayed, outclassed.
Shit, man. Fleury's coming in cold, playing well. Like that, I think that has to be noted and highlighted. That like, okay, I mean, he's going full psycho mode out there, and like, if he gets scored on, it's going to be because he's freaking diving for it as he does. But like at this point, do what got you here. Like these are your last moments. Do what got you here.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm not losing hope yet, but game 6 at home,
the stranglehold.
It's it could make things interesting. Vegas just won 2 in a row, an away game and then a home game. So like the Wild, there's no reason that they can't go out and do the same. So fingers crossed. But to our last 2 segments here as part of the Puck Your Opinions. Do you have that drop? All right. So
I just want to say Puck Your Opinion.
I always go that one because I don't have to edit it.
That's true. We already kind of touched on the Wild-related ones with William, Chisholm, Nyquist, Ogren, that conversation. So teased this earlier in the show, but let's talk about coaching vacancies. So this comes from friend of the show, Dan Bradley. Just wondering, which are the most and least attractive teams looking for a new bench boss? Like, which of these vacancies are probably the most coveted, least coveted? There are, I believe, it's 7 of them currently as it stands. So Anaheim, the Rangers, Penguins, Kraken, and the Canucks.
There's a lot. Like, I didn't realize it.
Yeah, so those are all the ones that are like full on in a coaching search. Boston, Chicago, and Philadelphia all have interims. So like, I think whether or not those go permanent to be determined, but up to potentially 7 teams that are looking. So in terms of like most attractive, least attractive, if you have an answer, I can let you go first here because I don't even know if I know mine yet.
Most attractive. I mean, probably Vancouver. Probably. I mean, Rangers. Oh, I feel like any coach, Rangers can sway anybody. It may not be a long life there or shelf life there, but like you coach for the New York Rangers, I feel like a lot of just hockey people are like, if I get an opportunity to be part of that organization, like I'm gonna take it. I mean, Anaheim for destination, and maybe you can be the one to actually get something out of this young core. Boston's might be tough given where they are now. I don't like a lot happened this year with Boston. Obviously, Z and Hoppy, and we're a little bit more dialed with that. But those are kind of like my just looking at the list. Off the top of my head, those are kind of the ones that I'm thinking of. Seattle, I guess maybe, but like it rains more in Seattle than Vancouver, and the team's not good, so it's like
yeah.
Maybe.
I think Anaheim, I think, is the one for me that kind of stood out because I feel like if you go to New York, if you go to Seattle, if you go to Vancouver, I think there's some pressure there on you to like make the playoffs. Like those are teams I think that feel like they're close and should be competing. Anaheim, I don't know if those expectations are there yet, but being able to come in with a really young team, and I think, of the teams here, I think there's the most obvious path for growth and success is with
like
this
even
Anaheim
if you get them
group.
close, like Montreal was last year,
Right.
where they were like, "Look, we took a step forward. We're actually like not upset with the season, and we're going to make playoffs next year." And what did they do? They made playoffs next year.
Yeah, like Anaheim to me is the one that makes a lot of sense for David Carl. Like, hey, let's bring in this young coach who's had really good success coaching, on the college level, like knows how to speak to the young players, knows how to clearly develop with some, a lot of the successful players that have gone through Denver. So that's the one where I think that he could be really looking at. As far as least attractive, I can start here. I think this is probably Chicago. I think Pittsburgh's probably a close second. And then I think Boston, I would maybe put third. But like Chicago, like isn't a full on rebuild, and like they have some pieces in place, but those pieces are years away from being ready.
Yeah.
So I think like if you're taking the Chicago job, it's more like I'm gonna get 3 seasons of bad teams, and they're gonna fire me when they're ready to bring in someone new to coach the actual team.
Yeah,
like you're kind of the placeholder coach there. And then Boston, to your point, like just a lot of stuff going bad. And then Pittsburgh, I think like they have no picks left. Like Crosby, Malkin, Letang are probably a year or two away each from, retirement. And then I don't really know what comes next. Like obviously Dubas, like good GM, has the potential to do stuff and, do what he can. But I think that's somewhere I would like be a little hesitant just based on where they're at. But those are probably my low
Hoppy's commenting and texting me saying that Vancouver is so far down the list. They've been able to swoo coaches in. They just can't keep them that long. That's just annoying. But Aquiluni will spend those loonies just on the wrong guys usually.
Yeah, I think he had a good point, Chad, here.
Ass motherfucker.
Yeah, New York gets you paid, but you hate your life. I think that's a really good summation of what that job would be like. So,
I think Philly's an interesting one because I think they're like a coach can get something out of that group. And they're just like a few changes away from being competitive.
I feel like
they got some young talent too.
Yeah, I think Philly, Seattle, and Vancouver are all kind of in that boat of like,
talking to Philly just seems
right. I can
see
that. Yeah, but just like, hey, you have the, there's an expectation maybe to make the playoffs as a wild card, but it's not like a must right off the bat. But yeah, like there's some interesting ones there. But so, coaching carousel will continue, and obviously there could still be more, depending on, if GMs are unsatisfied with playoff performance. Like we said, John Cooper, is the seat going to get hot now that they've been bounced in 5 games? Who knows? Tough to say, but then there could be others to follow. The other topic I wanted to bring up, this is from Sean Shapiro. Not word for word, but this is like the summarized. Basically, the NHL should have some sort of technology like player puck tracking to better set offsides and goal reviews, like more or less in real time. Like it should be able to be like, hey, buzz this down.
They tried with like some chip in a puck at one point, but I think like like the puck weight was affected and it kept like breaking, so they just abandoned the whole thing. And I want to say this was like around this was like right pre-pandemic where they had like some of this technology and they were actually like putting some of them in the pucks but like players were complaining and the league wasn't getting the data that they wanted. So they quickly abandoned it. I think it was like 20 games or 30 games into the season or something like that.
Yeah. But like even beyond that, like, the technology like soccer and tennis have to tell if like the ball crossed over like in tennis, like the boundary in soccer, like the goal line, like the fact that there's not something like that in hockey is still baffling to me, at least on those ones that are like right on the goal line. Like that call should be able to be made easily every time. Like the other sports have the technology, like it's probably a slight tweak to get it to work for hockey. But so that's like one that's interesting. But like, yeah, I think, if there's you would think there's someone out there that's smart enough to figure out like how they can better assist with this stuff in real time. And like, I think, speaking of offside, it's a while, arguably got jobbed in game 4 too, when Justin Brazeau was going to have a chance to go in on a breakaway. It was called offside, and the replay showed like, nope, he's very clear as the puck over the blue line, and both skates were still on the blue line. It wasn't even one skate; it was both of his skates were still on the blue line. It was very clearly onside. So, and in that case too, like, I think last day do it right. Like, it's close, you wave it off, and you can review it. Like, I think anytime it's close, the instinct for the ref should be to let it go and know that you can bring it to review. But it's probably difficult in the heat of the moment. Like, you're there to make the calls, and you think you're making what's the right call, but if there could be some sort of like conditioning mentally to let anything close go so that it can be reviewed, I think there is some benefit to that.
Yeah. No, I'm surprised that they're this behind on it, but like, they did make efforts. I just think the league has better priorities right now, but I could see it happen in the future soon. I mean, shoot, there's even there's this one MMA league that has like tracking stuffs in their cage. Now, does it work, and does it give us stats that we care about as fans of that sport? Not really, but I think in hockey there's definitely ways for them to start tracking more of these stats.
Yeah, and
in
like,
real
I think
time, like you said.
Yeah, and like, we've got like some of the stuff they've had with NHL Edge. I think that's come in the last year or two has been cool. So like, hopefully they can continue to build on that and find ways to use the oodles of technology that we have to make reviews and stuff go quickly, easily, more accurate, those kinds of things. So
absolutely. Well, Brett, this might be the last podcast where the Wild are still alive in the playoffs, where their 2024-2025 season year is still alive. I mean, you said you're not giving up hope, but any last predictions, any last thoughts as we wrap up the podcast here, and we'll get closer to game 6.
Yeah, I mean, my prediction was Vegas in 6, so I'm really hoping that that's not the one that I get right in the end, right? Like, I would have hoped it was literally any other series that I would get wrong, but like I said, I think what they need to do is not stop playing the way that they have been. I think there's still areas to be better at 5-on-5. The top line, who dominated kind of those first 3 games, have seemingly kind of come back down to earth a little bit the last 2, and Vegas has found a way to really slow them down. The power play, they've still kind of made up for it a little bit, but at 5-on-5, I think they have like, I want to say it's like sub 40% expected goal shares in both of those games. So it's kind of flipped from what we saw in games 1 and 2. But, I think Boley needs to continue to be great. And I think the depth in this team's got to step up. The third pair in the bottom 6, like, they haven't done enough. Like we talked, I think, on our opening show about how that could have been an advantage for them. Mm-hmm. And instead it's, I think, Brett Houghton, who's a Vegas fourth liner, I think now has 3 goals in the series, including a game winner. And his one, I think he might have had another one in this series too, that was scored in regulation, but ended up being the game winner. And the Wild just haven't really gotten that as much as you'd like from not just their fourth line, but I think the bottom 6 as a whole.
Yeah. And I think Eck has been right. I think he's doing exactly what he needs to do 100%. Out there. Because I think if he was going for it a little bit more, then he would leave space open, and maybe one of the other line mates would have to take up his role a little bit to even create that space, and they're not going to do so. It's just where I will agree on it. It's like, yeah, some of those shots we like tried to dig into the net in the crease, just he hasn't been able to get those. But I think like it's funny to think that like he has 2 assists now, yet he's the reason his line mates are scoring.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think that's like the points hasn't reflected fully in the score sheet, but his impact, I think, is definitely being felt. He's been, I don't know his exact number, but I think he's been really good in the faceoff dot.
Yeah, no, he's been carrying. So far as he's been carrying the team in the faceoff dot, because they've been struggling in the series overall, and if they're even close, it like in the second period, for the most part, the Wild have been able to like even it out in the third or get closer in the third. But like it's been Eck in the first 2 periods winning faceoffs for this team. Like Freddie Gaudreau, as much as I love him, has not been that good in the faceoffs throughout this series. It's been Eck.
Yes, he's won 51 of 94, so 54.3%, which I think would have been far and away the best number on the team in the regular season, which
Yeah,
I
you
think it's
can't-
way up. I think it's way up from his regular season.
Yeah, like that's like it's insane. Like he is carrying this team.
That might have been at 5-on-5. Hang on, I may have fumbled. Yeah, he was only 47% in the regular season, and then I'm at 5-on-5 here. Shoot, for the season, for the playoff one. All strengths. Here we go.
Well, as Brett looks up more stats, reminder to go check out Brett's player cards. This is the most recent one. Actually, yeah, today. Brett posted this earlier today, so go check these out from yesterday's game. Yeah, you want further stats? You want more of the storyline? Check it out.
Yeah, Eriksson Ek is 54.8 at all strength, so even like pretty much the same. So, yeah, he's been huge for them. He still has credited with 8 high danger chances, 1.67 individual expected goals for. So you could argue you should have 2, but yeah, 3 assists now. So I think like you have to be happy, and hopefully like maybe it's him just breaking off, like having a San Jose game where he bangs in, a couple goals to really arch this team into Game 7, because Vegas will be feeling it if this goes back there. So holding my breath. And the bright side is I believe it is a 6:30 puck drop tomorrow, so we don't have to like stay up till the sun starts to rise to watch the game. So actually get a nice reasonable hour.
There you go. Well, thanks guys for supporting the show. Back again on the channel for more live streams covering Minnesota Wild and the Stanley Cup playoffs. If this is the Wild's last game, we will be covering way more games down the stretch. I'll obviously have an interest in the Capitals game, so I'll be covering some of those and just some of the other matchups. If any games that even Brett, Hoppy, Z, the whole crew here and myself want to cover, obviously we'll jump on and continue to watch hockey with you guys, and I will definitely be covering the Stanley Cup finals for sure, as closely as we've been covering the Wild as well. But thank you guys all season. If this is the last show during like the active season / playoff season, thank you guys so much for the support. We'll obviously have a wrap-up show and we'll be live throughout the playoffs, but for our official first season, it's been a good one, Brett. It's been a good one. Some ups and downs for the Wild. They've continued to fight through it, and we got our backs up against the wall, but overall they played some damn good hockey. So I'm excited for Game 6.
Yeah, so the expectations are low coming in, and they've given us some hope, and I still feel good about their ability to get through, whether it ends up being LA or Edmonton in the second round. But this next game for sure, and then if they can win that one, Game 7, obviously always pressure packed, but fingers crossed.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Brett, last word goes to you.
Yeah, hopefully when we're back with you next time is to talk about round 2.